back to our tobacco cessation series. This is series video number 3. If you haven't already, please check out video number 1 and video number 2. Today's video, we're going to be talking about SMART goals, but first off, we'll kind of reintroduce ourselves. So my name is Amanda Eddy. I work here at Community Clinic in Springdale with the Northwest Arkansas Tobacco and Drug-Free Coalition. I work at a Tobacco Prevention Cessation Program grant. And then I'll have Abby kind of introduce herself over here, and then we'll kind of get started.
Yes, and again, I'm Abby Lucius, the Community Development Manager here at Community Clinic. And we are both certified tobacco treatment specialists.
Yes, which is why we're making this video series today, especially with everything that's going on and a lot of added stressors. A lot of people are really struggling. So today we're going to be talking a little bit more about setting goals, what are SMART goals, how do you empower yourself? And so I'm going to kind of start us off by talking more in detail about what exactly are SMART goals. So SMART is an acronym, and it basically means your goals are specific, measurable, assignable or obtainable, depending on which one you're going by, realistic, and time related. So I'm going to kind of go through these different steps, give examples of how they relate to tobacco cessation, and then Abby's going to talk about empowerment towards the end. So we'll start off with the first in the SMART goals, which is the S, which is specific. So you want to target a particular area for improvement. So for tobacco cessation, you want to target, you know, I want to quit smoking, or I want to cut back on my cigarette use. So that is your area focus of improvement. The next step is M, which is measurable. And that's when you quantify or at least suggest an indicator of progress. So with quitting tobacco, it could be, you know, by next week, I want to cut back on my cigarettes by a pack. I want to cut back on my dip by, you know, half. Like, it's a measurable progress each week until you're able to completely cut it out. So assignable is specify who will do it. So for you in particular, it's I am going to quit smoking and this is what I want to do. So you're kind of assigning it to yourself in this particular instance. Realistic. State what results can realistically be achieved given available resources. So part of that realisticness when it comes to tobacco smoking is, you know, do you have a good support system? Are you taking the steps to kind of remove certain, as we mentioned in earlier videos, like triggers or stuff that's going to cause you to crave cigarettes? You know, putting stuff in place that's going to put you on the path of success. You know, do you have a good support system? Do you have nicotine replacement therapies available to you that can help with the process? So there's a lot kind of stuff with realistic. The T is time related. Specify when the results can be achieved. So, you know, set that time goal for yourself. Maybe by within a week or two, you're going to cut back by 25%, then 50%, and then even set that quit date as like, you know, within 2 months, this is the particular date that I want to quit smoking, you know, and build up to that. Setting those kind of time goals is a way for you to kind of keep yourself accountable and kind of achieve that goal process. And so Abby can kind of talk maybe a little bit more about this and then kind of go into the empowerment of the goals.
Absolutely. So making SMART goals is just a way to better ensure that you're able to meet those goals and move forward. And one of the ways we make any behavior change is by setting forth a plan of action. So we talked earlier in the videos about getting ready to quit smoking, gathering up your lighters, your ashtrays, everything in your house that could be a trigger, all of those things. But without, you know, little milestones that we set for ourselves that we're trying to achieve, all of that may be for naught. So it's really important that we have, you know, our big long-term goals downstream. Obviously, the ultimate goal is I'm going to quit using tobacco products completely. But how are we going to get there? And that's where those short-term goals come in. So maybe this week I want to cut down by 5 cigarettes. I'm normally smoking a pack a day, and I want to get down 5 less than that. And then just set those in small increments, because it's really hard to think about quitting altogether. If you're a pack and a half, 2 packs a day user, and then saying in a month I'm going to quit smoking, how are we going to get there? There's lots of obstacles that could pop up, and you might feel like it's just impossible to get all the way there.
And that's definitely part of the realistic goal process too, and the SMART goals.
And the point of it is not to be overwhelming. It's to make it more realistic. That's one of the areas listed in there, is how are we going to actually get there? So when you sit down after you've looked at, when you've been recording, when are you smoking? Why are you smoking or dipping? What are some feelings that you have? What's going on in the day? And then take that and take stock of what you've recorded there, and then start making your short-term goals based on that information. So if you're seeing a consistent pattern that you grab a cigarette every morning with your cup of coffee, I think our first short-term goal needs to be addressing that issue completely. I think anyone I've ever met who's a smoker always says that very first drag in the morning is the very best one. And so, not that we want to just completely take away all those pleasure sources in your life right away. We need to talk about how are we going to prolong that very first cigarette. So if, we're normally having our first cigarette within the first 30 minutes of opening our eyes in the morning, our next goal is let's try to make it so that we make it 45 minutes after we wake up before we have our first cigarette, or an hour. Little steps like that can really make it a little bit easier for us to make it all the way to the finish line, which is what we're trying to do. And then the next thing I wanted to touch on was just talking about a new sense of empowerment that most people start to feel once they start their journey to a tobacco-free life. And when we're talking about empowerment, we're talking about the ability for you to proudly say to other people that you have begun this journey and you're working really hard on it and you're dedicated to it. So that sense of empowerment may come up when somebody comes and offers you a cigarette or just a drag off of their cigarette, or if someone is offering you some dip. You have the ability to say, no, I'm on this new journey and I'm trying really hard to quit. There's another way for you to step up and tell other people what you're working on, so that you can maybe help them on their journey too, and give them some empowerment. And then also just that sense of pride. Maybe you go for a doctor's checkup and you get to tell your doctor, I'm trying to quit smoking right now, and I can tell you there's no doctor in the world that won't be super excited for you when you share that. And everybody's experience is different, but it's a really great experience. Once you start cutting down and you start to feel so good about yourself once you get going. So I just implore everyone to keep an eye out for how they're feeling as they start, making those little changes and start meeting those small goals.
Yeah, for sure. And that's a really important part of the process, is feeling that empowerment of, self-improvement. So that's kind of wrapping up the goals section, and we have 2 more videos coming up in this series. The next one, we're going to be talking in detail more about nicotine replacement therapy options, kind of going in depth on, how they work, which ones maybe are more effective based on studies. We'll kind of talk a little bit more about that. And then in our final video in the series, we're going to talk more about relapse prevention and maintenance. So you've quit smoking, how do I stay on that path of cessation? So we'll be talking more about that. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us at NWA-TDFC. You can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and you can follow us also at Community Clinic and send messages there if need be. So thanks, y'all, and we look forward to doing more in the series.
Yes, thank you.